Hey everybody, welcome back to the studio. In today's video, I want to address one of those areas that I get asked about a lot. And that is, what is HDR photography and what good is doing HDR photography and what does it do? All right, so let's start out. What is HDR photography? HDR stands for High Dynamic Range Photography. Okay, that means a lot to a lot of people. What the heck is dynamic range and what's the difference between high dynamic range and low dynamic range? Dynamic range is pretty much the colors or the intensity of colors that is captured between white and black of every color that you photograph on your camera. So how much white is in the red, how much gray is in the red, how much black is in the red, how much is in the blue, how much is the green, yellow, whatever. That's your dynamic range. When photography first switched to digital, dynamic range was horrible. If I photographed a couple at their wedding, I would expose, and still would expose if I did weddings, for the skin tone. Then you would let the dress and the tuxedo fall where it may. Well, back when I first started, the white wedding dresses were nuclear white. There was no detail in them. The black tuxedos were black, and there was no detail in them. The skin looked okay, but there was no detail in the whites or in the blacks. Digital cameras got better and better, and we got more dynamic range. So you could see more detail. You could see more of the grays, different shades of color within the picture. So it wasn't just black and white. It wasn't just black, gray, and white. It wasn't dark red and white and pink in the middle. We started getting more different shading within all the different colors. That's your dynamic range. Cameras today have pretty good dynamic range. Not perfect, but they're pretty good. So what is high dynamic range, and why would you want to use or take pictures using high dynamic range? Well, there's some things that a camera cannot capture. Perfect example is a picture of a coal mine and a picture of the sun in the same image. Well, if you could shoot a coal mine, if there was a coal mine in front of me and there was a sun up there, there's nothing that you can expose for to get perfect detail in the sun and perfect detail in the coal mine. Cannot be done in any type of photography without fudging things a little bit. Likewise, if you're photographing a house for a real estate picture. I got that right. If you were taking a picture and the house was dark inside and it was bright and sunny outside, there's nothing you can do other than bring in a lot of lights and trying to light the inside so that it matched the outside to get them to look the same, unless you used high dynamic range photography. There's some pictures, just natural pictures, that you just can't do. I always tell people, a groom skiing down a ski slope. It's impossible to get detail in the snow and detail in the tuxedo at the same time. Trying to expose for a perfect tuxedo and a perfect wedding dress side by side, it's impossible to get the equal amount of detail in both of them. You can get good, but you can't get great. High dynamic range photography allows you to get that. It allows you to expose for the dark coal mine and the sun and put them together so that they look the same or they look natural, or sometimes they don't look natural. High dynamic range photography allows you to play around with that. Now, I can hear the keyboard starting already, so let's address a couple things. First of all, the biggest thing. Well, that's one of the problems with digital photography. It's ruined the purest form of photography because back in the day, we never did that. Actually, that's a bunch of garbage. Back in the day, we used to do what was called burning and dodging in the darkroom. And that was pretty much developing or printing pictures so that you got the highest dynamic range from the negative. People always bring up this name constantly. Ansel Adams never did that. Ansel Adams invented the zone system so you could get detail in the whitest whites and the blackest blacks. No, you still couldn't get it. You could get more detail with his system. You could get more detail with what he was doing, but you could not get a perfect image from his negatives. That's why he had his own personal darkroom. That's why he hired somebody to do his printing for him. And this person did burning and dodging of the images. He would darken one area, he would lighten another area so that the images looked better than what was on the negative. So it's always been done. Next thing that people are talking about. Well, didn't you know you can do high dynamic range by... Well, I'm not covering off everything about high dynamic range. This is to explain what it is. So let's get into some simple ways of doing high dynamic range photography. The simplest, and it's not the truest form, so you don't even have to type that in the comments. It is just a way of doing it. You shoot an image, you put it into your editing program, and you lighten the dark areas and you darken the light areas. You can use layers, you can use adjustment layers, you can do whatever you want. So many different ways of doing it. You can use have a raw image and go in and just pull up the lightness in the dark area and pull down on light. There's so many different ways you can do it with just one image. But again, it doesn't get you the best image. The next way that you can do it is very similar, but only you take multiple images. So what you do is you go to a scene and you expose for the dark areas. You take a picture. You then expose for the lighter areas. You take a picture. You then expose for different midtones and you take pictures. You can take one picture, or actually you can take two pictures. You can take 3 pictures, 4 pictures, 5 pictures, 20 pictures, 60 pictures, 100 pictures, whatever you want. You then can come back and use an editing program to either do it automatically for you, or you can do it manually, and you can adjust and erase and enhance and whatever you want to do to make that image look really good. That's the second way. The third way is, it's pretty simple, but it just takes some time. And that is on your camera. Many cameras have HDR photography functions or features. And you go in and you turn this on, and what happens is the camera will take multiple images and then it assembles those images inside the camera. Now, it works. It really does. But you lose any control over it, or most control over it. The other problem, and it's a big problem, is it takes a time to do this when you're taking pictures. And I mean it takes its time to do this. So you're out, you're photographing something, and you go click, click, click. It'll take 3 pictures, and then it will assemble them. And while it's assembling them, you're sitting there going. And it can take 15 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 40 seconds. It can take some time to do that processing, and it can waste a lot of your time. Now, I do it. It's fun. If in the right situation, it's cool to play around with it. You can do some adjustments. You can take a picture. You can look at it and go, no, I don't like it. You adjust it again. You do some more pictures. You take, oh yeah, I like this one a bit better. It can be fun, but it's very, very, very time consuming. There are lots of ways of doing it, and there's lots of ways of playing around with it. But beware. Many times, if you push it too far, the picture will not look normal. And we've all seen pictures where the person was just too perfectly exposed to match the background, and everything in the background was just too perfectly exposed, and it looked more like a painting than it did a photo. So be careful. Be very, very careful. Maybe that's a look that you're looking for. Great, go for it. Try it. But just beware that it can look phony. I've seen many wedding photos brought in here for printing that the photographer did that and they just looked phony. So beware and be careful. Again, try it, see if you like it, and go from there. Now, a word of warning. One of the hardest things to do with HDR photography is when your subject is moving. Why? Because you take multiple images. Now, if you're doing it of the stars and you want to do that, you can put a tracker on your camera. You can do different things. Some cameras are better at adjusting in camera for laying things over. Some programs better at finding the different layers, different things, and assembling them together. But beware, if you have stuff moving in your images, you're taking multiple images, it can look really phony. It can look really weird. So just beware of that. So let me know down in the comments if you tried HDR photography, what you think of it, how you do it. I have to say I enjoy doing it in the right situations, but in the wrong situations, it's a pain. I do it a lot when people bring me images in that they've shot themselves and they need me to fix one image over another. And if they have one where they shot darker and one lighter, it's great to put together, but it's a lot of work. So get out there, take some pictures, have great fun doing it, and we'll talk to you next time. If you like my videos, please subscribe to my channel. Click on the like button down below and the subscribe button, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye now.